Okay. Hi guys. So here I just want to illustrate the application that we're working on, and then try and explain to you, how the SQL Server works together with Visual Studio. So let me just quickly close the door so that there's no interruptions. So in our illustration, we are using our table here, the equipment table, and as well as the equipment type table. Let me just quickly see. So here's the equipment type table, and here's our equipment table. So what we do is we want to add information to the equipment type, and by adding the information to the equipment type, we only add the description. We want the ID to be auto increment. So by doing that, we come to the identity specification, and then we check, make this yes, and then the identity seed and the incremental seed or the identity increment is going to be 1. And then same thing as this, we just make that auto increment. Just note, here we've got the equipment ID, which is the equipment type ID, which is a foreign key from the equipment type table, which is here, it's a primary key. And in this table, it's a foreign key. So now, if we come to Visual Studio, this is our form. So what we want to do is we want to click on the submit button and then add that. So this is the code that we have written. So what our code does is, so the first thing is we want our namespace, and then we also want the different classes. So these classes are provided by SQL. So this is the class for the connection string. So here's the connection string, and this is a command. So this class is responsible for executing the different commands. And then when you're selecting information from the database, this class is responsible for converting the data from SQL readable to Visual Studio readable. Then it stores this information to the data table. So now what we want to do is want to insert to a database. So the first thing is we open the connection so that these two can be able to communicate. We have our SQL statement, insert into the equipment type table, and we only want to insert into this column, which is the equipment type description and the values. Now here we would add, for instance, what we want to insert, but now we want a placeholder at equipment type description. And then we want our command, which is going to execute. But now it's got the placeholder, so you need to specify or indicate where we get the placeholder so that that we know where the data is coming from. And then we use command, which is this class .parameters.add with value. And then we have our equipment type description, same as that, and specify that we add that using the text box. And then this is for us to be able to execute this. So once we execute it, we take the data here, we add it here, we include, so we have a fully functional SQL statement. And then we, so if we do insert, then the value of X is going to be 1. If we don't, the value of X is going to be 0. So so here we check whether we've inserted or not. And if it's greater than 0, which means that we did insert. So we want to say, 1 has been inserted over there. And then in terms of our select, so we open our connection, we do our SQL statement, select from that, and then we say, we want our command. Our command is going to select the information from the database that is provided in the connection string. And then now this is where we use the adapter. So it's going to take the information that the command got. It's going to store it in the adapter. It takes it, it puts it in the data table that you've declared over here, and then it puts it to the data grid view. So that when we, so let's try now and run our application. Okay, So it's going to run an incorrect one because we need to come here and then say we want form 1 to run first. Because, we don't have the different buttons to indicate which one should run. So let's say this one is type description here is bottles. And then when you select, so we're able to select that as our equipment type description. So that's the insert and the select. Now, in terms of this, so what we're able to do is, because the equipment type is the foreign key, we load that to the combo box, so that when we select, so we first load the combo box of the data from the database. So the ID serves as the value member, which is what we insert to the database, and then the display member, which is your what should be displayed is the display member displayed to the user. So here we want to now load our combo box. So we open our connection. So we've got a method, and then now we have our SQL statement, select all from TBL equipment type, and then the command is going to take the query. It's also going to specify where we should get this. And then we've got our DB adapter, new SQL DB adapter, and then we store that in the adapter, and then we have our data table. Whatever we stored in the adapter, we pour it, or we fill the data table with that. And then now, because the combo box also has a data source, we load our data source with the data table. Then there's 2 columns. So the one column is a display member. So all the data in this column, which is the display member, in the type description should be loaded is the display member, which is what the user is going to see. And then, the value member, which is what is going to be inserted into the table, is loaded here. So now, when we, so FRM that, so when we run our table, so you can see that all those, types have been loaded. So now, in the next week, what we're going to do is we're going to be able to see how we can be able to insert, what happens when we insert, this. So thank you for